Welcome to the Sparkles of Gold Astrology channel. My name is Nicolas Polimenakos. This video is about June 8th, 9th till about the full moon on the 14th of June. I'm going to cover the aspects really quick on the way there because we have some good heavy hitters, some surprises, some erratic lightning bolts that will just come out of the sky and change the Taurus part of your chart. I will talk about that, several other aspects along with the full moon that happens on June 14th. If you like what I do, hit the thumbs up, hit the subscribe. That's what they call a CTA. And now, onto the chart. Well, here we are, June 8th, Wednesday. It's interesting, huh? We have 6 months here now, into almost halfway through the year, coming out of intense transits. Several weeks ago, we had eclipses. I know that you had certain things shifting your world, especially if you were a fixed sign, you're a Taurus, or you're a Scorpio, Leo, or Aquarius. You've seen the shifts. They have happened. Now, here we are, June 8th. I'm looking at the chart. We're just going to set things up. I'm doing this video on Wednesday here in the afternoon on the West Coast. As you can see, we have Mars right here in Aries, coming up to Chiron in Aries. We will talk about that in a second. The moon's in Libra. We've had the moon in Virgo the last couple days, and now we have the moon in Libra that's going to go into the weekend, and things are kind of coasting here. They're all right here, but then we're ramping up to a major aspect that's already building for the weekend. So here we are. I'll scoot up a day to June 9th. Here, this week, we've had Mercury, who recently is just coming out of its retrograde cycle last week, and is starting to slowly build speed and move forward. Here, Mercury is at 27 degrees Taurus. It's starting to go over these areas it did the last 3 weeks of the retrograde, and it's building, and already is building, to a marvelous trine to Pluto at 28 degrees here. And these trine is 120 degrees away from each other. It's harmonious. It flows. It needs help to flow, by the way, with a trine, because trines could be lazy. And so that type of aspect, you have to like put your hands on the levers and make it work. But once you do that, it does work. So Mercury in the pragmatic sign of Taurus, conservative sign of Taurus, speaking at a certain pace, going at a certain pace. Not like Mercury in Gemini where it's boom, 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 boom. It's slowly building here, but it's having an intense, truthful conversation with Pluto. And this isn't the first time that's happened in the last 3 to 4 weeks. This is the third time that's happened. And here, with this aspect, we're getting at the past, not just the heart of the matter in the Taurus and Capricorn part of your chart, but it's not like we're finalizing something, but we're getting to a place of understanding on the deep, truthful level. Pluto likes to unearth things from the subconscious, bring things up to the surface that do not have its function anymore, that are poisonous, stagnant, that need to be pushed out. And Pluto, not only does it do that, but it goes to the ultimate truth. Whether it's hardcore or amazing, it does. And that's why I love Pluto. I'm a huge Pluto fan. I'm a Plutonian person. And it, in its relationship and communication relationship with Mercury here, we can get to some deeper understanding within yourself, or let's just say with other people that you're in conversation with. On a business level, since we're talking about earth signs here, Taurus and Capricorn, we're dealing with pragmatic situations and maybe a certain type of building up to a contract that was signed or a business deal, but everything's on the table, everything's truthful. The last several weeks with Mercury being in retrograde, things weren't clear per se, or they had to be talked out and negotiated in different types of ways. And if the negotiation or the conversation was legit, truthful, great. If it wasn't, you're going to see this Mercury trine Pluto bring those things up. And this is a good opportunity to say, hey, let's be clear on this one more time. You know, you said this, I said this. Are we in agreement? And the agreement is there. Just you had things to you had time to fine tune things the last couple of weeks. Mercury Pluto can finalize a conversation, a deal, so on and so forth. Okay, so that's June 9th. Again, this has been building all week, but something else has been building all week, and it is the aspect of the week of the month, I would say, besides the retrograde cycle, and it's Venus here in Taurus, moving into a conjunction with Uranus and Taurus. Venus, feminine, money, resources, love, and relationships. In its home, a place it loves and is comforted in, and it's Taurus. And here, Taurus isn't just pragmatic; it's a slow build, and takes advantage of its own resources, or the building up of resources, and is a slow mover in building up its territory, its plot, its land, its dirt, and what it plants there. And it flows with Venus being there, but with Uranus here at 16 degrees, this is unpredictability. And if you're a Taurus out there, and even a Scorpio, if you're a Taurus out there and you have planets between 12 to 17 degrees, 18 degrees, you hopefully have been getting used to the erraticness and the surprise and the unpredictability that Uranus brings. If you haven't gotten used to it yet, which I don't think anybody really could get used to Uranus transit, especially a Taurus, which is so stubborn and grounded and fixed in its ways. But this is already a territory that these degrees, these Taurus people and their degrees and the planets have already been through here a little bit. And here's another moment with Venus coming together with Uranus here. We have love, relationships, money, and resources combining with the electricity, the out of the blue, the unpredictability of Uranus, which his main goal is to completely rock and shake whatever sign that it's in or whatever aspect it makes with another planet. That's its fundamental thing, is to bring something revolutionary in, to change the old and to bring in the new. And this could be in very progressive ways that you've never thought of. And even if you think you can predict this, what it is, a lot of times you don't. And it's something you've never thought of or felt or experienced before. So you're a Taurus, you're a fixed sign, you have these degrees at 12, 13, 14, over 17 degrees. You have a surprise happening this week. If it hasn't happened already, it's going to happen. And it's a major fundamental shift. Hopefully, if you're involved with a money-making venture, that you're smart about it in an investment, this can bring something new into your world. Same with love and relationships. It totally could. Just remember, even though Taurus is a slow mover, staunch in its ways in a sense, I think here this Uranus transit, it can bring something good involved. Just as long as you understand. And I think this is the secret with astrology anyway. Like whether you're an astrologer or you're a client or whatever. If you and I, like right now, you're watching my video and you're seeing these aspects and we're talking about the future. We're forecasting. I tell you that it's going to rain the next week and it's looking like it's going to rain. You're going to carry your rain jacket and the right shoes, right? Well, the same thing with astrology. 50% of the battle in astrology is if you understand what's possibly coming your way and you're prepared for it, then the surprise of Uranus, right? The surprise and the unpredictability and something that completely sideswipe you isn't as hardcore as it could be when you're somewhat prepared. And this is also a type of thing where you can enjoy that anything could happen. Anything can happen and the possibilities. So try to think about it in those terms with Venus, Uranus. But this is an amazing transit. It's connected to the eclipses that have been happening in Taurus and Scorpio for the last 6 months. It was connected to the 2 eclipses that we've had in the last month by these degrees. I love this degree because it's pretty much close to the Beltane midpoint degree in the Taurus birthdays. If you're a pagan or Wiccan, you celebrate, many people celebrate that midpoint of the seasons, the season between spring and summer, and that vitality that it brings. It's pretty much around 15, 16 degrees. So you can look back even to almost a month ago, and there's a connection there. Ride the lightning. As I always say with Uranus, you ride the lightning, be part of the change, move with the change, my Taurus friends, because I know it's hard, but some of you have already learned a lesson. All right. So that's on the 9th. You also have, just so you know, on the 9th, or that's not on the 9th, the exact conjunction. I'm just talking about the building of it. But here with the moon in Libra, you have these oppositions across from the Mars and Aries, Chiron and Aries. So Thursday, Friday, could be emotionally volatile for some people, especially if you have Aries planets, because of the moon opposing it. So it could be triggering things emotionally, and the wounds that Aries people and those who have Chiron and Aries in their chart, or Aries planets, this is another moment in the month where your wounds are open in there. But here, since Mars has been close to Chiron this whole week, I think you're already there. This can exaggerate it a little bit, but if you, and I like to give solutions, we've had Aries Chiron moments here with some of the lunations, the new and full moons here, like in April. So the work's already been done, and if it hasn't been done, it's been exposed, as in the wound and the way you can heal the wounds in the Aries parts of your chart. I love this Mars and Aries transit because it's about the will and putting yourself out there as an individual and showing yourself and doing whatever it takes to do that, you first. And with Chiron there could be some wounds for some Aries people, or people who have Mars and Aries, where they don't feel as strong in these moments and don't feel like they have the power that a typical Mars and Aries person likes to yield and deal with. But it's in these moments where the warrior shines through. And it isn't necessarily meaning that you swing your sword and defend with your shield all the time. It means rest. It means noticing the parts in the story, if you are the warrior and you're fighting for yourself in the world, knowing when to rest and rejuvenate, because you have to get right back out there and do it, and to put yourself out there and put yourself first and foremost. So these are moments in my mind where healing and self-care is great for someone affected by these transits right here. And then just to prepare yourself, you'll get right back out there and do it. This Mars and Aries transit isn't going to end until several weeks later. So remember, Mars and Aries, or people affected by this, you're so used to going hard and straight and right through the door, but there's the other side of it of burning out quick. But if you keep that fire steady and know when to take it back, and then know when to put more kindling on there, then you're ready. It's like a stronger, longer lasting narrative and story for yourself. And that's one way you can look at this connection with the wound in the Aries part of your chart. Okay, so we get into the next day. Moon's pretty much going to go into Scorpio. I'm going to move this up by the hour. You can see what I'm doing here. And now we have Venus 15 degrees closer to Uranus. This electricity is building. But what I talked about with Venus and Uranus, it's building up. There's several other aspects here, but I'm going to jump into, and I'll say something about Moon and Scorpio because I'm a fan of it, because it's ruled by Mars. So you could see how here now, from the Moon moving from Libra to Scorpio, that there's an internalization going on, and at times of protection. Scorpio likes to keep their cards close. It's ruled by Mars, and here's Mars making a closer relationship to Chiron with that wound I was talking about and the rawness of it. So, here is a good time. Another reason why to keep things protective and close and to go at a certain pace, okay? So I'm going to go to the next day and to show you, here is the Venus-Uranus conjunction that's exact right here. Not saying something's going to happen right at that moment. It could happen 2 days before, the day of, a couple days after. It's a shift and it's a change. I love it. I love it. I love it. I hope my surprise is something that I come to love. And even if it isn't, later on, I will actually come to like it and love it. And that's another way to look at things like this, because sometimes in the moment when things shift really hard, it's hard to deal with for some people, depending on their chart and their personality. But down the line, if you can keep some hope, like, oh, there's a reason for this, and I have to let that simmer, and the reasons will come to me and will become clear to me. Again, with something like this, sometimes it's very clear in the moment. So I kind of looked over here, June 11th here, and then there's something here. When we go to the 12th, we look at Mercury, who's at 29 degrees and 29 minutes here, and it's about to move right into, let me see if I could do it by the hour here. What am I going to do? Might find it. Does it happen on the next day? It's basically going to go right into Gemini. And this is the third time the third time that Mercury is going to 0 degrees Gemini since April. The first time that it did was April 30th when Mercury went into Gemini for the first day at 0 degrees. That was April 30th. The next time it did, it was May 21st, a huge day in the retrograde cycle, because that's when Mercury made its conjunction or cazimi together with the sun. That's the midpoint of the Mercury retrograde. It always is, by the way. The Mercury retrogrades happen 3 times a year, 3 weeks pretty much on average it takes. And in the middle of those 3 weeks, Mercury always makes a conjunction, or it's together with the sun, and they call that cazimi. There's more to it than that, but that happened on May 21st at 0 degrees Mercury in Gemini. So I'm getting really close here. You see me moving the chart, and there it is here. We're pretty much Monday morning, June 13th on the West Coast, and there's Mercury at 0 degrees right there. A critical moment that's connected to those dates I gave you. Now Mercury gets to do what it loves to do, which is to go from point A to point B, but what it happens in between, the journey, the juggling, the multitasking, the quickness of the mind, the intuition that comes through the mind, your antenna. If you're a mercurial person, now after Mercury being retrograde and going backwards, it's starting to push its way forward. During Gemini season, this is where the flow happens. Mercury is at its tip-top finest. Mercury's always at its tip-top finest. It's mutable. It could be masculine, it could be feminine, diurnal, and at night. You know, that's the thing about this planet, the closest planet to the sun. Its role is completely different and functions in every other planet and archetype in astrology. It's a special one. So here, Mercury now gets to start to deliver these messages fast that it had to reconfigure, review. Those are review is retrograde during those weeks. And now it's starting to deliver the messages. They're going to be coming in clear and fast and in multiple counts. So that's the 13th, and it's gaining speed. Let's just jump to, I can always miss something here, but let's just jump to the full moon. And here's on the 14th. It happens here like 4:51 on Pacific time on the West Coast. And it's at 23 degrees Sagittarius. By the way, if you don't know what a full moon looks like in a sense, the moon's always 180 degrees from the sun. That's a full moon in astrology. When the moon is together with the sun next to it, that's a new moon. So 2 weeks later, it takes the moon and goes here, and it's opposite the sun. This is in Sagittarius, which is ruled by Jupiter. In this case, Jupiter in Aries rules this full moon. So Jupiter has been bringing its abundance, its expansiveness, its questing qualities in the sign of Aries. And I think Aries has been digging this. I mentioned earlier about the wounds with Mars in Aries and what's happening with Chiron in Aries. But still at the same time, there is this push. And so Jupiter's ruling this. I also will say that Saturn here, that just turned retrograde, is in great relationship to the sun. That's a trine, an air sign, so you have some support here in that sense. Saturn also is a big part of this full moon. As you could see, Saturn here in Aquarius is making a sextile. That's a conduit, a tightly wound, harmonious transit only for a certain period of time. You have to jump right into it. And it's doing that with the moon, supporting the expansiveness of Sagittarius, giving it structure, giving it a new way, a new vision, and crystallizing the vision, Jupiter, vision, Sagittarius, crystallization, Saturn, putting it together, structure in Aquarius, something new, right? And this flows in the language of Jupiter and in the language of Sagittarius. So Saturn is supporting this here too, supporting the moon. But let's be real too. Got to remember the other side of things. Saturn is and has been squaring the lunar nodes here. So that's an ongoing story and will be for a while. Okay, won't get too much into that. Venus, is opposing the nodes and conjunct the node. The theme of the last 6 months with the Taurus and Scorpio eclipses, they're in play here. You cannot get away from Mars and Venus in these stories this year, because of where the lunar nodes are, with Taurus being ruled by Venus, Scorpio being ruled by Mars. So Mars now is pretty much at 15 degrees mathematically together with Chiron. As you could see, as in the earlier part of this video, I was talking about the wounds. I was talking about the what can be exposed in the Aries part of your chart, or for those who are in Aries or planets in Aries. This is a big full moon for you. Have your support system. I know it's about doing it alone. I know that you can't help but want to do things alone and to push forward. And so use your shield. Be conscious of your environment, because the Aries story and archetype is to burst through the door, but be conscious around you 360 degrees. And so use a little bit of cunning in the moves that you're going to make, positive moves you're going to make. I think here, if one was to push forward too hard with Chiron being in Aries here, and it being the ruler of the South Node here, and Venus on the opposite side of it, you could see how there's Venus-Mars relationship here that can be somewhat caustic. And I think there's times for expressing oneself or one's anger and frustration. It's in how you do it. So yeah, have your shield. There's a way to walk into a situation, not burst through with that type of firing energy, especially if it's wounded. I hope you feel me on that, because I think in the end, we all want to feel like centered, and we want to grow, and we want to heal. And that's a love thing in the end. And Mars does want that in the end, but it needs to be heard and seen. And for the individual that it is, or the person that it is, it needs to be heard and seen. So if Aries person, or Mars in Aries, or you have something connected to this right here, it's like, you know what? I know secretly you want that healing. And I know part of this story is to do it alone and to put yourself out there. But at the same time, there's help out there for you, or support. And Venus can bring that to you. It's just how you come together. It can start like this, but working it out is a solution. I'm always looking for the solution. And if this is the first time you've been on my channel, I'm always going to show you the sides of transits. I'm not going to just preach on like an amazing something or just it's one-sided. I'll always try to balance things for you, because I think you have to have that context as a human being, and especially when you're dealing with astrology. I only know this because of my client work. I've been doing this for a long time now. I'm professionally for 17, 18 years, even longer, studying. All I know is when I deal and talk with people I have a chance to help, or client work, that in the end, people just want us a way to walk towards, or some hope, or a solution. And sometimes I can show that, but they have to come up with the solution and the vision themselves. I'm part of helping them with that, right? But in the end, human beings want to grow and be happy. And it's the resistance, and it's in the end, most of the time in my practice, it's the fear. It's the fear one has about, like, if I do this, then these people might not like what I'm going to do. But I feel like I have this deep-seated something that I have to change. And so that person's in fear of making that change because of the world, or what other people might think or might not agree with. And it's managing situations like that, or self-confidence, or the imposter syndrome, where you think, no, I can't do this. I'm not good enough. And everyone is not only good enough, everyone has limitless potential. And that is how I view things as an astrologer, and how I view things when I have a chance to help people. Is let's find out the way you can move through a certain situation and then build upon it. It might not be the easiest. You might have to do a ton of work. You might have to sit back and wait for certain moments. But you're not and don't have to be stuck. So for those watching this, old and new, I see you, I feel it, and I got your back. If you ever have any questions about any of this stuff, you can contact me down below. I have the information. If you like what I do, subscribe. I'm doing this to build my world, but I'm also trying to make a difference in people's lives. And I have gifts, and I like sharing those gifts. So thanks for watching this video. It was a quick one. I did it because I know some of you are going to be new. I have book reviews coming up. I have some weird other videos. You can kind of look in my past video timeline on YouTube, so on and so forth. Visit my website, sparklesofgold.com. I just launched a Patreon during that Mercury Cazimi at 0 degrees. I'm also going to relaunch it again at the 0 degrees Gemini. That's how you do astrology. That's how you ride the wind as a Mercury person. Until next time, adios.